Hi, this is Don McAllister, and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. Pages, Numbers and Keynote are Apple's premier word processing, spreadsheet and presentation applications, and recently Apple have made all three apps available totally for free on both the Mac and iOS. Now, I last covered the apps in 2013, and since then Apple have been diligently updating the apps, increasing stability and adding in new features. So, as part of an occasional series, I'll be checking out just what has changed, as well as revisiting the basic functionality of each application. So let's make a start this week by taking a look at Pages on the Mac, and I'll cover Pages for iOS later on in the show.